Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. On tonight's show, we are going to be covering the AFC South, a division that came down to the final week of last season between the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars. The Indianapolis Colts and Houston Texans are under construction, and we're going to be hitting on them. Definitely a very competitive division and one that over the years has been tough to forecast. With me tonight, my guys, Mr. Mike Zappy, San Antonio, Texas. Mr. Brett Bandick, Winter Haven, Florida.
Ready, baby.
Ready. We are going to start things off at the bottom, and it doesn't get much lower than this. The Houston Texans, conference worst 3-13-1 last year, fired Lovie Smith, hired DeMeco Ryans, their draft picks, quarterback C.J. Stroud, defensive end Will Anderson, center Juice Scruggs, wide receiver Nathaniel Dell, and they added Dalton Schultz and Robert Woods via free agency. This is a team that was competitive last year, a team that played hard for Lovie. I think Lovie was in a no-win situation, and I think he knew it was kind of like a temporary job. But I do like the hire of DeMeco Ryans. I think he brings a great brain for today's NFL to run a defense. And honestly, this is the year where Stroud is going to take his lumps, but he's going to get invaluable experience. Second-year man Dameon Pierce out of the University of Florida. I expect him to have another awesome season. But as far as the win-loss totals go, I don't see them doing much better than last year. I would say best case scenario 5 wins just based on their lack of overall talent and experience. Whoever wants to jump on this next, go right ahead.
No, I agree with you. I think 5 wins is the max for this team. And it's just by flaw. I think they put a lot of their stock into Will Anderson. And they're really not like this coming up draft. I think they lost a bulk load of draft picks this coming up draft. But they pretty much put all the stock into this guy, and he had a under than average year this past year. I don't see this team doing that much. Like you said, I think Dameon Pierce is going to have another stellar, solid year. The offense is going to run through him. And Dalton Schultz, I mean, he's getting older, but he is a reliable tight end. But they stay competitive through a lot of games. They fought hard. They just had some crappy luck sometimes, and the better team won at the end of the day. But yeah, same thing. I don't see them getting more than 5 wins.
Your prediction?
I mean, 5-11, Brett. Is that what you're going with?
Yeah, yeah. What is it? Is it 5? No, 5-12.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 4-13 for the Texans.
It's hard for me, like looking at their schedule, and I'm sitting here like they might not get their first win until week 11 against Arizona at home. Because I think there's only one team that's worse than the Houston Texans, and that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Probably,
which,
yeah.
Lo and behold, is going to lead to Arizona having the top 2 picks in next year's draft to get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. But, look, you got to give credit where credit is due. This team did compete last year. They just couldn't finish games until week 18 when we all know what happened when they defeated the Colts and screwed themselves out of the first or the number 1 pick in the draft. But they still ended up getting a quarterback in C.J. Stroud. They still ended up getting Will Anderson. So, I got to give credit that they went and got 2 cornerstone pieces to build around that offense and that defense. Offensively, it was nice for them to bring in Devin Singletary as well to back up Dameon Pierce, because I think that's someone that can actually help out Stroud's growth, because, you need that guy that you can dump the ball off to. And as we saw him do it time and time again with Buffalo, he's good at that. So, trying to look at the small little pieces, that the positives is they're building. We know they're building. I just hope they give D'Amico Ryans the proper amount of time to build this team into an eventual competitor in the South and then eventually the AFC. I only have them winning 3 games this year. It's really hard for me to find 3 games on their schedule, but you got to figure they're going to sneak away with 2 other wins, maybe one against like a Tampa or something like that. So 3-14 is where I got them.
Yeah, they gave KC a hard game last year.
So we got 5-4-3.
Yeah,
and they gave Dallas a tough one.
All right. Yeah, they did. And honestly, they were competing with the Giants. Giants only beat them by 1 score. I think it was 24-16, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Giants were competing with them. Dallas was down 23-20 with 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter where Dak had to lead Dallas on a 95-yard touchdown drive?
Yeah.
I mean, they gave the Eagles a hard time last year, at least in the first half they did. They were competitive in a lot of games. They just didn't have the mentality. They didn't have that fight in them to be able to play 4 quarters of hard-nosed football.
They didn't have that killer punch, that killer instinct to really put teams away.
No, and that's why I like the D'Amico Ryans hiring, because now you bring in that guy who, for one, played for Houston, but secondly, he's got that killer punch mentality that he's going to bring that to that defense. Let's be real about that. They won't be a top 5 defense this year, probably not next, but he's going to build something, and that's one thing I'm going to look forward to. With
your point, Zappy, they got to give them enough time to get it done. And that remains to be seen, because a lot of these coaches, and this is what makes the difference between good franchises and bad ones, they're always trying to find the next big thing, the next fix, before allowing the current guy to get things done the right way. So hopefully, to your point, they allow him to do it. I actually have a high faith that if given the proper amount of time, he will turn them around.
Yeah, and the other thing we got to remember, too, with this team, John Mechie III didn't play it down last year because he suffered a season-ending injury before the season even started. So technically, they're getting another offensive playmaker who's really playing on his rookie year. So they've got a lot of youth on this team. Of course, they brought Robert Woods in, like you said. They also brought in Noah Brown, who year after year became a more reliable target for Dak in Dallas. So, I'm not trying to find the positives out of them. There's not much, but just give them time.
It's only so much you can look at on that roster.
I think they have a pretty good puncher, personally.
They got a lot of good. Yeah, I love Derek Stingley. They're in cornerback.
They got a hell of a punter, hell of a holder. Special teams wise, I think these guys have a chance to be in the middle of the pack.
All right, we've talked about this team enough. Let's move on.
The Indianapolis Colts last year finishing 3rd in the South with a record of 4-12-1. Key addition, slot man Isaiah McKenzie, formerly of Buffalo. Wide receiver Brashard Perryman, formerly of the Tampa Bay Bucks, both via free agency. Quarterback Anthony Richardson, his time will be coming now. Cornerback Julian Brents, they needed to pick him up to replace Gilmore. Wide receiver Josh Downs, cornerback Darius Rush. Key losses, Bobby Okereke signing with the New York Giants. Wide receiver Paris Campbell joining him with the Giants. Cornerback Stephon Gilmore, as I just mentioned, signing with Zappy's Cowboys. And not to get over there yet, but I have a feeling Gilmore is going to have an awesome year. I just want to say that. As the Colts go, I think it's imperative that Jonathan Taylor has a bounce-back year. This is a team that has a deceptively physical, hungry defense. Their defense is not that terrible. But in order for them to compete with the more talented teams, they need the groundwork, Jonathan Taylor, to keep some of these offenses off the field. And, of course, when you have a superstar like that, it makes life easier for a new quarterback. And it's time to go that route because they've tried the revolving door approach. They brought in Rivers. They brought in Wentz. Last year it was Matt Ryan. They even gave Jacoby Brissett a shot. It's time to go young and build up from the bottom. The Colts, since Andrew Luck's premature retirement, have not been able to do that. Honestly, I could see them getting their signature upset over Jacksonville maybe, or maybe their signature upset over Tennessee. But I don't see this team winning more than 6 games. I think 6 is the max. I'm going 5-12 for the Indianapolis Colts.
The Colts are a very interesting team because This is a team that's coming off a season where we were thinking they were a 12-win team, a possible AFC Championship team contender. And the one thing that has been plaguing this team ever since Andrew Luck's retirement is for 5 years in a row, it was a different starting quarterback to open up the season. Now we insert another quarterback, and it's going to be Gardner Minshew to start off this year before AR gets his opportunity. So,
and I think that's the right thing to do.
That absolutely. And when I look at this Colts schedule, I look at it, I'm like, this team can actually start off fairly good. Because I do think they're going to get that signature win against Jacksonville. That's week 1 of the season. And then they go to Houston. I think they'll win that one 2-0. And then they go to Baltimore 2-1. They get the Rams at home 3-1. Then the Titans, where I think they can win that one too 4-1. But after that, the collapse starts.
Yeah, it gets real. It gets
real. So, and looking at their overall schedule, I don't see more than 6 wins on this team. I'm going to say 5-12. The Tennessee game is the one that's a toss-up for me, but I think they will be competing early because they do have a young, good defense. They do have one of the top offensive lines when healthy, and they do have one of the top running backs when healthy as well. And we can't forget, Michael Pittman Jr. is a nice number 1 receiver. I'm expecting Alec Pierce to take the next step. And then you bring in a guy like Josh Downs, who I think is going to be an interesting addition for them. I want to see how they handle Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. If they're able to be complementary to each other, to take as much pressure off of not only Minshew, but AR when he finally does get his opportunity, probably week 8 or so.
Yeah, and to your point, their belief in Pierce is part of the reason why they let Paris Campbell go. Paris Campbell was picked up by my team, but that is part of the reason because of a growing faith that it is going to be his time to take a bigger role in that offense and continue to evolve his career. Bretsky, Zappy's. So what was your final prediction, Zap?
5-12. I could see him 6 when I'm going 5.
Okay, we agree. We both have him at 5-12. Bretsky, anything you want to add, and what is your prediction for this team?
Yeah, I pretty much same thing as Zap. Anything more than 6, nothing more than 6 actually. I think 6 wins is a max for this team. Like he stated, Mustache Ride Minshew is going to be the starter. At the beginning of the season, but I'm actually agreeing with Zappy on this. He's going to upset Jacksonville. He's visiting his old team. That's where the upset's going to be. But come week 7, week 8, AR-15 is going to jump in there. I'm kind of Rich. I talked to you about this off there. I'm really interested to see if they implement the RPO in this offense with Jonathan Taylor and AR-15. I just don't think they have the offensive line for it just yet.
No, I don't think so either. Outside of Quentin Nelson, you got a lot of question marks.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. They don't have the Eagles' offensive line where you can just run that kind of offense. But I'm kind of curious to see where it goes. But I think once they add a few more keys to that offensive line, then they can slowly start running that offense and see where it goes. You know what I mean? But I'm kind of interested to see what this kid can do. He's got a cannon. He was I think he was recruited as one of the most athletic quarterbacks to come out of the league besides Cam Newton. Out of college. So I mean, we'll see where the ball takes him. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with this kid.
The guy's able to sling the ball 75 yards down the field.
Oh, the guy's got a rocket, dude.
That's an
He's got a rocket. But his flaw is the accuracy. And that's his flaw. But
that's going to come with time.
You would think so because
he's got that Randall Cunningham 70-yard chuck down the field. You know what I mean? The guy's arm is just awesome.
Yeah, and I think they've got the right coach in Shane Steichen to help him out because we saw how he developed Jalen Hurts. And when you think about a quarterback that came out that had a cannon but was not accurate, that was Josh Allen. And we saw what Brian Dable was able to do to him. I expect the same thing to happen with AR. I think he's going to be right there, 54% passing to start off his career. But eventually he'll get up to 63% and he'll figure it out. not every throw is going to be 70 yards down the field. He's going to have to learn how to check it down because, yes, while he was at Florida, his biggest flaw was his accuracy, but he was able to shadow that by his ability to run with the ball. So this is a good I think they're a year away from being competitive again. They still got to build some more, but they're heading in the right direction. The fact that they finally utilized a first-round pick to draft a quarterback instead of going out and getting a Carson Wentz or Jacoby Brissett or a Phillip Rivers, you know, like they're finally doing it the right way. Jim Irsay finally learned.
I think they need to build the offensive line around him and play to his qualities. So I mean, you know, we'll see where it goes. But I'm kind of curious to see what this kid can do in the league.
And that's going to happen with a forecast of a record that we're predicting. And Brett, what is your final record for these guys?
6-11.
6-11. So you got them one better than Zappy and I. Yeah. To your point about improving the O-line, that's going to happen naturally by constantly picking lower in the draft, because you're not going to turn around either one of these teams we just spoke on in a year. It's going to take a few. I will say this, 2027, I said it. Both these teams are going to be better than the two teams that we're going to talk about now.
I can see that.
And there's going to be a lot of reasons why. For Tennessee, plenty of reasons why. For Jacksonville, I'm going to say it right now. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to end up on a different team down the road. And that'll be Jacksonville has not had a reputation. They're kind of like the Marlins in baseball. Like they do something really good and then they just fall out for a decade.
I couldn't imagine Doug Peterson allowing that to happen. But
that is a good point. He is a hell of a coach. He did manage to burn his way out of Philly too. So to be continued, and we're going to actually speak on them shortly. Anything else you want to add to the Indianapolis Colts before we move along?
No, I just want to see Quentin Nelson return to being one of the top left guards in football, because we saw it up the middle of that offensive line. They couldn't get any push whatsoever, and a lot of it was because of Nelson's injury. That's what I'm looking for. I'm expecting Bernard Raymond to play better at left tackle. This team could seriously be a team that wins 8 games with Minshew, but they won't. But they have a lot of the pieces there to be good.
I don't think they're going to be that patient. I think you kind of mentioned it with the way their schedule looks. Winnable games, maybe get a nice little 3-2 or 4-1 start. But once Minshew starts collecting a couple of L's, similar to what happened with Kurt Warner and Eli, I think they're going to push this kid into the fire. We saw it with Tua and Fitzmagic as well. That was even weirder because when Tua got pushed in, Fitzmagic was actually still winning. So that was a rare one. Where in Warner's case, I get it. The guy backing you up's the number one pick. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. 8 would be the absolute ceiling, as Zappy stated. I don't see that, and neither does he really. Tennessee Titans lost in Week 18, which was essentially the AFC South Championship, against the Jaguars. Key additions: wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins via free agency. Defensive end Arden Key via free agency. Offensive tackle Peter Skoronski via the draft. Quarterback Will Levis via draft. Tyjae Spears, the running back, as well as tight end Josh Wiley via draft. Key losses: Bud Dupree, who signed with the Atlanta Falcons. We already mentioned Robert Woods. He's a Texan. Tight end Austin Hooper is now a Raider. They needed to replace Darren Waller. They got him, as well as Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I put some of their key matchups: Week 2 versus the Chargers, Week 4 versus the Bengals, Week 9 in the Steel City, Week 14 in South Beach, Week 18, the rematch venue switched, Jacksonville at home. That, in my opinion, is going to be their biggest game of the season. This is what I see for this team. This is a team that a lot of things got derailed with the emergency surgery with Ryan Tannehill. They did have a lot of issues vertically with the passing game last year. Malik Willis got a little burn. I think they realized that he's not who we hoped he would be. Maybe not yet, maybe not ever. Derrick Henry, mixed bag. Got dinged up. Still, in my opinion, when healthy, a top 5 running back, but he is starting to show some of the tread over the battles during his career. This is a very big season for Mike Vrabel because I believe that if the Titans really have an underwhelming year, Vrabel could be out. And I feel that he's one of the better coaches in the league. The DeAndre Hopkins addition is great because I think it's going to help Treylon Burks become a better player. And I think that Henry's going to have a nice year. I think this team's going to win the AFC South this year, too. I just kind of got that vibe. 10-7, AFC South champion, Tennessee Titans.
Wow.
It comes down to that. It comes down to that final matchup of the season. It could be revenge or it could be a repeat. I think them and Jacksonville are very close. But I think the one key difference, I happen to believe that this Titans team has a better offensive line than Jacksonville. And I also think you can make an argument that they have a more physical defense. They did lose a couple of important guys, but when Derrick Henry is right, and we make fun of Ryan Tannehill all the time, but when Ryan Tannehill plays within himself, he wins games. In a lot of variables and metrics, in that regard, he's similar to a guy like an Alex Smith or a guy like a Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't exactly do anything great, but the one thing that they do consistently is win ball games and play within themselves. I could be off on this. They could be a 7 or 8 win team. I just kind of got a vibe that them and Jacksonville are going to be very close because when I think about how piss poor, and it almost looked like the Titans were mailing in the season last year, they still almost stole that game. So before I totally anoint Jacksonville, I'm gonna say the Titans have a puncher's chance. Kind of going with a little bit of a reach here. 10-7, Tennessee Titans, South champs.
The Tennessee Titans were 2 minutes and 51 seconds away from winning the AFC South last year.
Correct.
Until Josh Allen was able to return a fumble for 47-yard touchdown to take the lead 20-16. That's what Jacksonville needed to win the division. They not only needed to finish hot, which they did. I won't take anything away from them on that regard. They finished hot. They had a great second half in the wild card playoff game against the Chargers. But Tennessee had everything just go wrong those last 7 games. They were 7-3. Finished the season.
They really were 7-3. You're right about that.
And I look at this team. They improved their offensive line, which you alluded to. I love Jeffrey Simmons up the middle because you cannot run the ball when that guy is clogging up the middle. I love their linebacking core. I love their safeties between Amani Hooker and Kevin Byrd. I love their defense. They are a good team. And then the addition of Tajay Spears is one of my favorite additions of the draft.
Because it's a nice contrast.
Well,
sorry to
interrupt
interrupt
you.
you.
Contrast. It's a nice contrast, but he was a great running back out of Tulane, a fantastic running back, and it's going to take the load off of Derrick Henry because we know he is now at that point, but we cannot take away from the fact that Derrick Henry takes really good care of his body. There's one thing. He's the LeBron James of anything. He takes a lot of really good care of his body. He did suffer an unfortunate break of his leg, but that was just unfortunate. It wasn't because of bad training.
Yeah, it was
I like this team. Right. But and then when I look at the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, I think that is the difference because I thought this team was going to be competitive without DeAndre, but to me, DeAndre is the difference between them winning the division or not. I'll leave it at this. Going into Week 18, I do believe that both Jacksonville and Tennessee will be 10-6. And the winner of that game will win the division. I have Tennessee winning that Week 18 game, finishing the season 11-6, while Jacksonville finishes 10-7.
Now, given how deep the AFC is, do you think that a loss like that knocks Jacksonville out of the playoffs, or does it just knock them down to a wild card?
They may very well be in the wild card mix because you got to look at the North. They're going to be competitive. I'm expecting all 4 teams to be competitive, and you look at the AFC East, 3 of those teams are going to be monsters, and the Patriots are going to be the sleepwalker that everyone looks forward to on their schedule. It's going to be hard to say a division gets 3 teams in the AFC. I just cannot see it. I cannot see any division getting 3 teams because I can make a case for the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bills, the Jets, the the Jets, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Bengals. So I think a loss like that means that the second place team does not.
I looked at the Browns roster, and I happen to think that they have quite improved on the defensive side of the ball. We'll see. What I don't.
It's predicated on Deshaun Watson for that team.
Yeah, for sure. And a full year to really get ready now and get back in the football flow. I don't like the loss of Kareem Hunt because I think what he and Chubb had together was a very nice thing. Bretsky, what are your thoughts on this team, Mike Vrabel's future, the addition of D-Hop? Can Henry stay healthy? What do you think about all of it?
My first thought is, number one, don't ever say my Patriots are a freaking sleepwalker team, whatever the hell you freaking came out of your mouth, whatever the hell that was.
Number one for the longest
Number
time.
2, I don't care. Shut your mouth. We'll talk about that when the AFC's preview comes around. Shut your mouth.
That's just like a little hors d'oeuvre right there.
Yeah, look at me, a little piece of the pie. Listen, my second thought, what surgery is Ryan Tannehill coming off of? What surgery?
What was that? Do you recall, Zappy? I honestly, because I'm not gonna lie and tell you I remember because I don't. It was something with
was it his foot or shoulder? That's what I'm trying to remember.
I thought it was a foot thing.
If it was his foot, that's one thing. If it's a shoulder, that's something completely separate. Either way, he's not a spring chicken. Depends. Yeah, it depends how he heals, but I don't see Tannehill. I don't see him carrying this team. I really don't.
It was
what? Oh, yeah, because Derrick Henry's going to run the ball 30 times a game.
Brett, that's very disrespectful if you think he can't.
I didn't say that he can't. I'm just I wouldn't do that to the man. Number one. You know what I mean? Like it's too much. It's too much. Come playoff time, is he going to run the ball 30 more times a game? Like the guy's going to be wore out.
That's when you have Tajay
Spears. The guy's going to be wore out.
Yeah, the addition of Spears is going to take some of that off him.
Yeah, I don't.
You also have to look at how he was when he had a number one receiver. When he had A.J. Brown in that offense, he was a damn good quarterback, and you had to worry about the threat of him running the ball. His receivers last year were not getting any separation at all. And Treylon Burks did miss a lot of time. Now Treylon Burks is going to be demanding the number 2 cornerback while DeAndre gets the number 1. And if there's one thing he's great at is he's one of the best finishers in the NFL. And that was the Titans' biggest problem is they couldn't finish once they got to the red zone. Especially those last 7 games, they suffered a lot of field goal ending drives. And those are the difference.
Yeah, and I gotta say that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not.
I'm not a believer in Tannehill. Like I can't do it. He's got to be the guy to carry them. So
it's the D-Hop factor too, because a guy like a D-Hop could make an average quarterback a little bit better. And I do believe that when you're talking about teams that are slugging it out for the wild card or have a record of a wild card team but could win a division with maybe lesser wins, you know how it goes sometimes. I do think that a guy like a D-Hop, I guess what you could say is the Titans prize is the Patriots miss, because I do think the Patriots really needed him.
See,
they did.
They did. What I think.
Hence Vrabel Belichicking Belichick.
No, I think. But
it's
Conway.
I don't know. I'm hit or miss with this team. Like I said, I don't have enough faith or trust in Tannehill yet. I can honestly see them going, either 8-9, possibly 9-10.
9-8.
But they're. I'm sorry. Yeah. 8-9.
Well, if he has him going 9-10, that means he's got him making the winning.
You know what I'm saying?
At 7-10, winning the wild card, winning the divisional, and then losing in the conference championship.
It's late. I can see them going 8-9. Like I said, I don't have enough trust in Tannehill yet. I mean, I think their defense is going to carry them most games, just because they have solid front seven and a really good back half. So it's just I don't know.
Let me ask you a question, though. In your eyes, what does Tannehill have to do to earn your trust? This team had the best record in the AFC 2 years ago, and last year was 7-3 before all the injuries started piling up.
And what happened in that playoff game? What happened?
The defense sacked Joe Burrow 8 times.
No, they ended up. Tannehill ended up throwing 2 picks late in the fourth quarter.
Things happen.
Since then, I haven't trusted him. Since then, I have not trusted him.
One of those balls was incredibly catchable too, but just saying. I get it. I do. I get it. If we're done,
and he's coming off surgery, like I said. So it's just I don't know. I gotta see him play. But at the end of the day, like this is a prediction. 8 wins. 8 wins for the Titans.
All right. Here's my question to you, Mr. Brett. One last one. The Tennessee Titans, they finished with a remarkable season. They hosted the Bengals. You're talking about what happened. The Bengals won that game 19-16 while they were on pace as they made their way to the Super Bowl and eventually lost to the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was Ryan Tannehill. He had 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 2 of them in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to tell me that a 19-16 loss is worse than a New England Patriots loss in the playoffs with your Mac Jones? What was the final score in that game?
No, I mean a loss is a loss in the playoffs. Does it really matter what the freaking score is?
It does.
A loss is a loss in the playoffs. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't. A loss is a loss in the playoffs. If you're really
asking that question, then it's a really ignorant one because it does matter. Because if you get your bell clocked and don't show up versus if you show up and lose a close game, there's a different morale that comes with that. So, yes, it does matter if you show up or if you don't.
I don't see it.
Based on just the loss alone, would you take Mac Jones or would you take Ryan Tannehill?
Mac Jones.
Even though he also had a similar game as Tannehill?
Based on what? I'll tell you what. I'd take Tannehill over Derek Carr and Mac Jones.
Oh, yeah? Why? Is Derek Carr improving?
Not yet.
Because him and Mac Jones will be rooming together. During the Pro Bowl. Just they won't be playing in the game.
Oh, yeah. Jesus.
I don't know. I like Tannehill. I like him. I mean, he was a receiver
Mac
in college.
Jones in Pro Bowl? What are they going to ask him to work there? Or like
no, that's what I'm saying.
He's working the chain crew.
Okay, thank you.
He's going to be working the chain crew for the flag football game.
Yeah. I don't even know if Mac Jones is the best quarterback of the Patriots. That might be really Zappy. Oh, bye. Okay. On to Duval. These guys won the South last year with a record of 9-8. Lost in the divisional round to the eventual champion Kansas City Chiefs. Key additions, Calvin Ridley, suspended last season. They actually got him last year. Safety, Andrew Wingard via free agency. Running back, Dearness Johnson via free agency. Offensive tackle, Anton Harrison via the draft. Tight end, Brenton Strange. He will be joining Evan Ingram, who just got some money. Running back, Tank Bisbee. Same thing, the draft. Linebacker out of Florida, Ventrell Miller. Key losses, offensive lineman Jawan Taylor signing with the Chiefs. And Arden Key, and this could be a key, signing with the Tennessee Titans, their most prolific rival in this division right now. And I already alluded to how I think the Titans have a better O-line than the Jaguars. The key matchups, Week 2 Chiefs, Week 5 in Buffalo, Week 10 versus the Niners, Week 13 against the Bengals at home, Week 18, that elusive Week 18 game, the big one at Tennessee. All right. Trevor Lawrence shared the interception mark lead with Dak Prescott last year. A lot of good, a lot of bad. Zappy did point out to me, I don't know, a few months ago, how some of Dak's picks were super catchable. I'm not giving Trevor Lawrence that same, I don't know, rope. The reason why is because Dak has a history of not throwing a lot of picks. That was uncharacteristic. Trevor Lawrence's case, I can't say I'm necessarily surprised at the amount of picks. I mean, hell, even in the playoff game, first half, a huge contrast and difference from the second half in that Charger game. I like what this team is doing. I like the way that Doug Peterson is gradually molding Trevor Lawrence into an eventual MVP candidate. But when I look at this team, one thing that I'm still not buying is consistency. They've been consistently inconsistent. I saw this team kind of slug it out in a sloppy game with my Giants. We beat them on a goal line stand. I saw them play their best game of the year probably against Zappy's Cowboys. But I also saw them play like crap against lesser teams as well. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that until I see it done on a more consistent basis, I'm not convinced which Jaguar team's showing up. We could say we don't trust Tannehill or we don't do this or we don't do that. But one thing I do know is that the Tennessee Titans prior to last year win. They've been winning in the Vrabel era. A minor miracle got them into the playoffs. Zappy mentioned it earlier. And an even bigger miracle got them to the second round. I love their kicker. And that's not a joke. I'm being serious. I think they have a hell of a kicker. Evan Ingram will show his face of the drop machine that he is. He got paid. Trevor Lawrence, I think incredibly high of. But like I said, I am not buying their offensive line. And while I do think that their defense is gradually becoming more and more of a solid unit, I still don't think they have a better defense than divisional rivals Tennessee. I will say this. I love the combination of Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones. I think they're going to do a hell of a job this year together. But in the end, I got this team going 10-7, and I think they're going to miss the playoffs for one particular reason. And it's that team that they're playing in Week 18 is going to beat them for a second consecutive time. I got the Tennessee Titans and them finishing with the same record. Tennessee winning the division because of the tiebreaker, beating Jacksonville twice. And I have a funny feeling that Jacksonville's going to have some dubious loss to like the Texans or somebody that's going to make our man Jordan Patrick pull his hair out. But just my opinion. I could be so wrong. Maybe this team's ready to take the next step all the way. Like I said, I appreciated their fight last year in the playoffs and their resolve coming along at the end after a slow start. I'm just not convinced which team's showing up yet. I need to see a little more of all of it before I can totally say that I'm buying them. But Trevor Lawrence I am high on, and I do think that in the next year or two he will be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I'm look, fellas, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of Sir Trevor Lawrence. I like what I saw last year, but I think
against most teams, he's not making that comeback after throwing 4 interceptions in the first half.
Can I finish?
I love.
I mean, we let this guy finish. You gotta let me finish.
Instead of can I finish and can this finish and can that finish? Why don't you just say he just dropped the line? Piggyback on what you're saying.
How about you just shut your
I
pile
do it to him all the time. We always do it to each other.
Listen,
you just wasted 30
they're
seconds.
coming out on top. They're coming out on top of that division. They're going to be 11-6. They're going to win that division. And they have too many weapons. I mean, yeah, you hit on the offensive line, but man, they have speed and just a ton of weapons.
So
ETN, Zay Jones. They have your boy Ingram now. You know, Calvin Ridley's coming to the squad. You know what I mean? They have weapons. They really do.
They have
weapons. And their defense is still solid. I'm not going to say it's great, but they're solid. Do
you think Calvin Ridley would be a safe bet to be their number one?
Absolutely. I really do.
And you think Ingram's going to follow up with another strong year? Do you think that was an aberration?
I think he'll have an average year. I think he's primarily going to be there to block, just because of the way that they're lacking on the offensive line. I think he's primarily going to be there to block. Just because of the way that they're lacking on the offensive line.
No, he's not. He's never been a blocker. He never will be a blocker. That guy's an Olay. No, he's a pass catcher.
If anything, then he'll be a decoy, and he'll come out and catch those quick 5-6 yard passes.
Evan Ingram hasn't not laid it down a block probably since high school. Maybe even earlier than that. Might even be Pee Wee's. No, that dude ain't a blocker.
Either way, I got the Jags winning the division, 11-6.
This Jag, I think, is one of the teams for your 2023 Paper Tigers. That's what I look at the Jaguars. Everyone is so sold on how that second half went against the Chargers. And yeah, you input Calvin Ridley into that offense, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't played a down of football in over a year. And that's going to take a toll on him, at least for the first 6 weeks of the season. You got to think about that. He still has to establish that chemistry with Lawrence. He still has to get used to game speed.
Sorry, Zappy. Brenton Strange is his name. That's the man that's blocking Bretsky on the bottom there. Just wanted to keep going.
And then I think the other question mark.
They brought in a tight end.
The other question mark, too, is their number one pick last year, the number one overall pick in last year's draft, Travon Walker. He only got 3.5 sacks.
Yeah.
You need him to get 10 to 12 sacks along with Josh Allen for them to have a competitive chance. Because, yes, while their defense is young and getting better, they were still not ranked in the top tier, not even top half of the NFL. So you got to remember that part. I like what they're doing with the receiving core. Yes, you have Zay Jones, you have Calvin Ridley, and you have Christian Kirk, who Christian Kirk did a phenomenal job stepping in as the number one receiver last year. Mm-hmm. But Cam Robinson, their starting left tackle, is also suspended for the first 4 games of the season, which is going to cause a daisy chain of effect. They did draft Anton, what's his name, from Oklahoma? Richardson, I think it is.
I think it's Richardson.
Anton Harrison. I'm sorry, Anton Harrison. He'll be starting, but you look at who they're playing early. It's going to come down to 2 games, in my opinion, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to come down to Week 1 at Indianapolis and Week 18 at Tennessee. Both those games are on the road, and I see them losing both those games. And that's going to be the difference between them finishing 10-7 or 12-5. That's the way I look at Jacksonville, or even 11-6.
Yeah, when Jacksonville goes to Nissan, I just think they're going to get run over.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule, how it starts. I mean, like I said, they go to Indianapolis and then they welcome Patrick Mahomes for Week 2. That's easily, in my opinion, 0-2 start. But then it gets a little easier when they get Houston, Atlanta, and Buffalo. They could easily win 2 of those, or they can lose 2 of those, because I think they'll beat Houston. But Atlanta's the big question mark, because a lot of people think Atlanta's going to be a much better team than what people are expecting them to be.
Right.
But, I look at the rest of their schedule. They still got to play Pittsburgh. I don't think they're better than Pittsburgh. I don't think they're better than Baltimore. I don't think they're better than Cincinnati. I think they're better than Cleveland. I don't think they're better than San Francisco, and they have to play them too.
Let me ask you this, both of you. How do you feel they're going to do against the run this year?
Yeah.
Well,
I witnessed last year the combination of Saquon Barkley and Vanilla Vic just diced them up on the ground. Danny Dimes on the ground, Saquon Barkley setting a franchise record for the Giants together. Quarterback, running back. Yeah, Vanilla Vic just really sticking it to them. And I think that has not necessarily been resolved yet. And when I think that we were able to do that to them with a skeleton receiving corps, the Giants are a better team this year on paper. There's other teams that, I don't know. I feel that if there was a blueprint of how to run the ball against these Jaguars, that was a great game to refer to. Game that Idris and I attended.
They were overall against the run. I believe they were 12th defensively, so they weren't bad, but they did have bad games.
They did have bad games, and that was one of them. The one I'm alluding to undeniably was one of them. But so Brett, what is your final? You said 11-6 for the Jaguars, and you got them winning this AFC South, correct?
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you this: how far do the Jaguars go?
Maximum second round.
Similar to last year, you got them dying in the second round.
Similar, yeah.
I'll say that's their ceiling. I got them missing the playoffs at 10-7. More so because I think the AFC is that deep this year. I have a feeling that the AFC East could be sending 3 teams. I think they're going to be sending the Jets, the Bills, and probably, as long as Tua plays enough games, I'm going to say Miami. I think the AFC East might be sending 3. The North is a very tough one to forecast. We're going to be doing our show on that in the near future, but I think you have 4 teams that you can make a legitimate argument could each win that division. Here, it's a 2-team race. You think it's Jacksonville, Zappy, and I think it's Tennessee. That'll be revealed. And you got the who am I missing here? You got the AFC West.
The West, and they have 3 teams that can also get in.
Who is your 3rd team this year? Would that be the Vegas Raiders? Or
no,
you
sir,
got Denver?
I think Sean Payton makes a huge difference for Denver, that they're going to be a
right
much
away?
better team.
You think right away he could get Russ back to playing his brand of football?
I think he can.
I think so, because you look at the success he had with Drew Brees, and he's a quarterback coach. He's always been that kind of coach.
Well, they definitely have a defense that if their offense can give them a little bit of something, that they should be able to compete. Because defensively, when you look at that team on paper, and mind you, this is after getting rid of Von Miller, they are a pretty deep team on defense. I think Patrick Surtain, maybe some Pro Bowl accolades this year. And, of course, we're going to be hitting on these divisions in the near future, just kind of shooting the shit a little. But, Brett, you have him dying in round 2. Zappy, do you have him making the playoffs? Wild card, or you just have them missing altogether?
No, same thing. Let's put it this way. I have Tennessee winning the division. I think the Jaguars, it comes down to that Week 18 game. The loser misses, winner makes.
I'm with you. And I think that's reasonable. I'm going to lean on the Tennessee Titans. But if Jacksonville should walk away with the division, it certainly wouldn't blow my mind. I just have a little more faith in what Tennessee has done over the course of the last 4 years than what Jacksonville has done over the course of 1. So I think that's where I'm leaning towards Tennessee, having a little bit more of a better reputation until Jacksonville has a little more consistency with winning. We'll see.
And it's
Sir
not
Lawrence
even
is on the rise.
1 year. Look at this. All right. They beat Tennessee. Obviously, I said the last 2 minutes of the game. They beat Houston week 17. They beat the Jets with Zach Wilson, I think it was, for that game. Then they had to beat Dallas, which was a comeback game.
That's their best game of the year. Really.
That was their best game.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the teams they beat during that stretch, they didn't beat anyone. So those are the things we forget about.
Similarly to how we have referenced that even though the NFC East might be better in terms of personnel and in terms of talent and even better as programs, we might not have the records we had last year because of the sheer fact that we're not playing the AFC South. New York Giants won 5 wins against the AFC. 4 of those were against the South. With that 5-1 division record, we're not a playoff team if we didn't play the AFC South. We dominated the AFC in addition to beating Baltimore of the North. But, the point to be made is this is going to be interesting because I think whoever wins this division needs to take care of business in the division. Because while I think you can make a case for which team wins this division, I think you can make bigger cases that some of these other AFC contenders are head and shoulders better than these 2 teams. And you already mentioned them all, basically. Do I agree with every last one of them? Maybe not, but I agree with most of them. AFC is stacked. I mean, truly. When you look at the AFC, dude, you could conceivably win 11 games and miss the playoffs. I don't think that'll happen, but I think 10 is no guarantee.
The sad thing is it could happen. That's what's crazy. This year would be the year that it could happen. I saw it happen years ago when Brady went down and Matt Castle came in, had a great game.
That's right. That was a weird season.
2008.
That was a weird season.
Yeah, we had 11 wins.
Patriots go 11-5, miss the playoffs. The Colts beat them out for a wild card. They went 12-4, lose to the 8-8 Chargers in round 1. That was a weird season, a very weird season. That was the same year that Plaxico Burress shot himself. That was the year that I don't even want to talk about that season. How did we get here?
I don't know, dude. I just said that happens. It's a conversation.
How did we get here?
It's going to be crazy. Hey, look at the AFC South. This is kind of the division where I'm not excited about for this year. I'm excited about the future when you look at the quarterbacks they brought in and things. But, I think we're going to possibly see the rookie of the year come out of this division for the offensive side. I think we could possibly see an MVP candidate coming out of the division and Trevor Lawrence. There's a lot of things that you could be excited about with this division, but it's the South. And again, it's just not exciting.
Yeah. You're not going to have 3 teams come out of the South this year, unlike 2 other divisions.
I will say this, though. For a division that isn't exactly that exciting, I think we did a hell of a job of covering this, making some logical arguments, pissing off Brett just enough. I think, just give a little sample of what the AFC East show could look like.
Oh, he doesn't even want to know what my prediction is going to be for the Patriots.
You're right, I don't. I'll keep your mouth shut.
I'm going to give you a little teaser. You guys remember what Zappy and I predicted for the Jets last year. Go back to the AFC East preview of last season, and you might get a clue as to what I think the New England Patriots are going to do this year.
That's crazy. The Patriots are going to start off the year 0-4.
There's a distinct possibility. Bailey Zappy.
I like how you're smiling, shithead, because your Cowboys are probably going to be doing the same freaking thing.
No. 0-4, sir. Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, Cowboys. That's what you guys start off with this year.
Good.
Ooh.
Good. When I'm 4-0, I'll call you.
And we're gonna
4-0.
Bill Belichick is getting 4-0.
I'll call you.
There's my other hot take. Belichick will be fired after the season.
You think Kraft would have the audacity to fire him?
Absolutely.
I won't.
I think Belichick's already on the hot seat.
I will say, I've said this in previous shows and over the course of the last year, that I feel that him wearing the dual hats of head coach / personnel man, I never liked that. I mean, I always think about a guy like a Mike Holmgren, who was an excellent coach. But once he started messing around with all the personnel, I'm like, it's too much. This isn't high school. This is so much more in depth. And Belichick, and I always defend him because I always say that with the whole Brady versus Belichick debate, I always defend Belichick, and I always say he provided Tom with all those great defenses. But it is hard to defend Bill lately when I look at the way he drafts.
He's not a good drafter. You know what's going to be hilarious, though? We saw Brett get upset about DeAndre going to Tennessee. We're going to see him get upset about Dalvin Cook going to the Bills because they just lost Naheem Hines for the year. And then we're going to see him get upset because
that does
going to go somewhere.
For the brother.
Yeah. Oh, we're done. We're done. We already have our roster. We're not signing anybody.
I know, because I think we've already conceded the season.
I think we signed 2 guys from the Naval Academy, hence Belichick being a military guy.
Oh, boy. That explains some of that counterintelligence with Spygate.
There it is.
There it is, he said.
Yeah.
Until next time, he's Zappy. He's Bretsky. I'm Richie. Thank you so much for hanging with us, watching the show. And more to come. We are saving the best for last. The East will be at the end. The 2 Eastern divisions, those are going to be our last 2 shows. But we're going to be keeping you guys in the know about more previews coming up. And I do want to make a quick mention. And granted, this is a pre-record, so we're going to speak on this on a different show, probably quicker than when you're going to see this. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, I speak on behalf of my panel. Prayers and best wishes to the James family. There's nothing more to say. You guys already know what happened. Our best wishes and prayers to the James family. That's all I got.
It was nice to see DeMar Hamlin reach out to him immediately.
Yes, and we break LeBron's balls all the time. But this is bigger than that. This is different.
Bigger than sports.
He's a father first, and he's a good father at that. So our best wishes and prayers to the James family, and just clarity more than anything, because at the end of the day, it's just a game, and if it's not in the cards for Bronny to continue that path, I hope he doesn't, because I must admit it immediately gave me the eerie Reggie Lewis vibes.
18 years old.
Too young. Too damn young.
Too young.
Absolutely. It just goes to show, we gotta treasure every day, man.
And for me, Bronny's is a little bit scarier than DeMar's because DeMar was from a impact to the chest that caused that.
Correct.
This is him just in practice. That's scary.
I strongly think that they might want to look deep into this because getting back on a court, I'm telling you, dude, like I said, with the Reggie Lewis thing, and I'm not comparing them. I'm not acting like I'm a doctor. I'm just saying it was eerie when I thought about that. I was at work walking in and I was like, did I just read that correctly? And I almost didn't want to read it because my initial, when you just see something and you don't see it all, my fear was a fatality. And I was like, oh God, no, not him. He's so young, but thankfully, at least that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Good work, too.
Had to make a mention of it. Like I said, this is a pre-record, and we're probably going to speak on this more on our next live show, which is going to be a few hours from now. About a day from now, this time tomorrow, and we're going to be speaking on a litany of things going on. A lot of the mass signings for max deals in the NBA, and of course, you can't do too many sports shows without speaking about the great Shohei Ohtani. His future teammate, Aaron Judge, will be returning to the lineup hopefully as soon as. Hopefully,
Judge and Ohtani are coming to Texas now. Oh, hell yeah!
Well, Judge already signed the place. But he already has a plaque there. No, but
true. He's got a plaque there before he has a plaque in New York. Go figure.
I'll tell you right now, dude. He can't. His return can't come soon enough after seeing the pitiful performance of the New York Yankees against their crosstown rivals, the Mets. Don't even get me started. Pete Alonso was colder than cold, and he friggin' bust out as a big game tonight.
Shout out Dorney.
Yeah, I gotta shout out my brother. Yeah, don't worry. He tagged the podcast on IG today. He let us know what time it was. That's one thing about Dorney, though. It don't matter what their record is, he will always be down to fight for them. I gotta give him credit for being a passionate fan like that. The only thing I want to fight for with the Yankees lately is if we can finally get Aaron Boone fired. Until next time, I'm Rich. He's Mike. He is Brett. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and we will be back soon.